what are the key practices that you recommend practically that we must follow as 1, 2, 3 to learn this skill of emotional intelligence?
Right. So I think first thing comes is your self-awareness. I think, if you ask the question from someone, think about a confidant, a very close person to your heart, in front of whom you can be anybody, and then say 2 words about this person. And I'm sure that anyone can give a solid answer to this. But then if you change the question and ask, now, if I go and ask this person to tell 2 things about you, what would he or she say? People always get stuck. It's because they have a very less understanding of who they are as an individual. So therefore, I would say, take a look inside, go inside, reflect on the things like what brings you happiness, what are the turn-offs for you, what are the turn-ons for you. Right? At the same time, having the consciousness of, I would say, the thought behind the emotions that you're going through. Just like I said, that some people come and say that I have anger problems. It's always not anger issues. There could be something, some factor that's actually triggering this emotion in you. So it's about taking a walk inside. I mean, things like journaling, things like sitting down. I mean, even tools like emotion meters or even mood meters are things that you can actually use when it comes to understanding that component of self-awareness. So take a walk inside is, I think, I would say, number one when it comes to practicing EQ. And at the same time, try to find what drives you. Because honestly, there are a lot of people who do things for the sake of doing. And at the same time, who are doing a job for the sake of doing a job. And it's pretty much like when you speak to people, mostly would say that, I can't wait for, thank God it's Friday, and oh no, it's Monday. So then, you need to understand that, what drives you as a person also. I mean, doing something that you're really passionate in will give you the necessary petrol and the diesel to run your body every day. So waking up every day, you will not feel like taking a cow to a slaughter. So then I think finding that factor, that is what we speak about intrinsic motivation also. When you're internally driven, when you feel like you want to be better than who you were yesterday, that will be a fantastic way of learning and building your capacity. I mean, rather than merely doing things for external rewards as an individual. I'm not saying that money is not important. Of course, it's very important. But if that is the only reason why you're in this particular job, I'm sure that burnout is not very far away. Right? So that, I would say, number 2 will be finding your passion. So go inside, look at yourself, understand yourself more, spend a lot of time with yourself, reflecting. That's number 1. Then I would say find your passion. That would be number 2. And then at the same time, very humbly work on your communication skills with people. Try to always get feedback from people, even if you speak in a forum, even if you do a presentation, even if you raise certain concerns in a boardroom. Ask for people for feedback. Was it all right how I said it? Did it show any passive aggressive way? Right? Do you think there's a different way of doing this? So it actually makes you a more humble person as well, to be very honest. So I would say those 3. So working on your communication, whether it's verbal or non-verbal, then coming into point number 2, which is finding your purpose or what drives you as an individual, and then number 1 would be taking an overall journey inside your life.
So warm welcome to another session in the webinar series, which is headed by the Postgraduate Department of APIT Sri Lanka, the MBA Diaries, which is looking at which is a platform looking at opportunities for you to connect with different personalities, many corporate athletes, and of course, personal experiences. So with that, let me warmly welcome our students from Staffordshire University who are in the platform today. And on top of that, let me also welcome all the other counterparts who are joining us from Staffordshire University, from Deakin University, as well as from AIT Thailand. And with that, I'm currently seeing in the platform, we have some few familiar faces, our corporate maestros who have been with us in our former sessions. Welcome to all of you back again to the platform. And I would also finally would like to welcome all the foreign delegates who are joining us from different parts of the world as well. With that, let us not take some time allowing the special guest today to talk to us about a very important topic that will be very supportive for the students, at the same time very supportive to you and important to you as a personal who is looking at the well-being as well. With that, let me also kindly right now invite Dr. Rohan Thatukorala, who is the epicenter of networking, bringing you these opportunities to all our dear students, giving this exposure to all our dear students to take over the learning to the next level. So with that, let me kindly invite Dr. Rohan Thatukorala, one of the directors at the same time heading and the guidance for the postgraduate school of APIT Sri Lanka. Doctor, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kaushali. Today we have a very honored guest, a very good stronghold in the fields of psychology with a BSc in psychology from Gurn American University and an MSc in applied psychology from Coventry University, UK. She has also holds an advanced diploma in counseling, psychology and diploma in psychology from the London School of Science and Technology, UK. Since 2013, she has worked as a visiting lecturer for the Rhodes Scholars Program for Scholars from the United States of America and Canada by Abercrombie Ken Private Limited. And in Sri Lanka, she works at Visakha Vidyalaya as a freelance English communications and skills development teacher. In 2019, she joined Mind Heals Private Limited as a counseling psychologist and now holds a non-executive director position. In 2022, World Women Leadership Congress and the CMO Asia honored her with the award Sri Lankan Woman Leader for her contribution to the society in the field of mental health. Currently, reading a postgraduate diploma in special needs education, she's an international well-being consultant at the International Transport Federation, a public speaking and a personality development coach, communications development teacher, and a senior lecturer. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the International Wellbeing Consultant, International Transport Federation, Rasini Bandara. Over to you, Rasini.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rohantha. It's quite an honor to be here. Thank you so much, Kaushali, Ruth, and the entire team at APIT Sri Lanka. Indeed, it's a very special topic to my heart that I'm going to speak about today, and that is emotional intelligence. Now, the person who pioneered the concept of emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman, often they ask this question, what does it take for y'all to get into a particular job? Once you come out of a university, what is that thing that you require in order to land a job? And many, of course, would definitely say that it's a formal degree that says, you have the capability or the capacity to fulfill the role that is required out of you. And at the same time, would say a set of skills. And this actually goes to the element of intelligence quotient. And intelligence quotient or IQ is a very, very popular one. But the thing is, Daniel Goleman also says that sometimes why people leave their jobs and also get into burnout. Now, burnout, this topic is also something that is very much misunderstood. Burnout only happens due to excessive work-related stress. So why people get into burnout, why people leave their jobs, and why there's very less employee engagement. And at the same time, why people get fired from their jobs is actually due to lack of EQ, emotional intelligence. A lot of people say when it comes to work, you have to have your work life separately, your professional life separately, and at the same time, your personal life separately. Now, the question is, can you actually draw this fine line between these two? Because if you look at your lives also, what happens in your workplace, you at least take a little bit of it back home. And at the same time, what happens in your households, you actually take it with you back to your workplace. Why this happens is something that you have to think about. As individuals, we are cocktails of emotions. We have a lot of emotions in our system, actually 27 types. And these emotions fluctuate all the time in our system. Morning, how you feel, it's not the same way you feel after 1 hour of time. And maybe right before you go to bed, what your emotional status in the morning would definitely would have changed. So the thing is, you being somebody whose emotions are fluctuating like this, at the end of the day, have to deal with a lot of people like that in your life who are emotional cocktails too. So this is the problem, right? So in a professional setting, people say that professionals or leaders have to make very rational decisions. Of course, yes. But unfortunately, you're taking these decisions regarding people. So then there's an emotional component attached to it as well. So you can't entirely let go of this thing. Now, the thing is, EQ or emotional intelligence is actually not the opposite of intelligence. It's not your heart above your or over your head, right? But it's actually pretty much an intersection of both these. So the heart and the mind, right? So it's a very, it's in harmony, actually. Your heart and mind is pretty much in sync and also in harmony. Because both these things, both these two, it's absolutely essential for you in terms of decision making. Because yes, you have to be logical. You have to look into the logical element of it. You have to be, a realist. You have to have all the analysis. But still, then again, you are dealing with human beings after all. So then a proper harmony between these two is highly, highly essential. And the concept of EQ is also there in I would say the workforce. It's actually very popular in the workforce, that people consider that it's very important more than actually IQ in the workplace. And there's a new portion in the run as well, which is called cultural quotient, because now people have realized that cultural sensitivity is also highly essential. Now, what can emotional intelligence do to you, or learning or understanding emotional intelligence will do to you? Now, as individuals, we have a very different style of communication. We are either very passive learners and listeners and passive communicators, that we do what we are told to do, that we never question. At the same time, when we sometimes go to communicate, we are very aggressive in nature. So passive aggressive is a very common thing. But when you build yourself the essentials of emotional intelligence, you actually become a very assertive communicator. Sometimes in life, it's actually very healthy to say no to certain things. And sometimes in life, you have to voice out certain opinions as well. Sometimes you have to speak for yourself, and sometimes you have to speak for your team as well. If you're a leader, if you're in a leadership position. And at the same time, knowing emotional intelligence will make you a very empathetic person. Empathy is a tough one. It's a very difficult one. How can one get into someone else's shoes and look at a situation? But in emotional intelligence, building empathy also gives you the strength and the place where you can actually validate someone's perspective and understand where someone is coming from. You don't necessarily need to agree with it, but you understand that another person can have a different perspective, and that perspective can be absolutely valid also. In EQ practices, people become more compassionate as leaders, because more than empathy, you need to be very much compassionate as well. And at the same time, when you talk about EQ practices, it'll make you, your organization, a very productive place. People will love to come to work. People feel that the leadership in an organization is very approachable. And at the same time, there'll be very high standards of PR skills that's practiced in the organization. And at the same time, people will always be very accountable, and something that we lack in the world today. And also, if you take the Sri Lankan context also, people always like to pass the ball, and sometimes don't accept the fact that, there's a fault from their end. But then EQ practices will definitely make you a very accountable person. And at the same time, sometimes saying or standing up to the fact, say that, I'm sorry, I don't know this, but then I would love to learn about it, shows a lot of courage in an individual. It doesn't show weakness in a personality. And at the same time, when you have EQ practices, it shows a lot of teamwork. And you love working as a team. You're never an individual person who's climbing that ladder, but you will actually take your team with it. So there are, just like this, couple of things. And I actually, to be very honest, very important things will be built up in you in terms of if you practice EQ practices. So emotional intelligence is also in the world today, because of the fact, nowadays multinational organizations and companies are not seeking for professionals with an honors degree or else this many years of experience, but they would also see the fact that whether do you have resilience as an individual to work in an environment, in a stressful environment? Do you have emotional intelligence? Are you a team player? Do you have the right kind of personality to handle people, to handle difficult clients? So all these things are looked at. And so EQ practices will give you this holistic perspective of personality. And at the same time, having EQ practices will make you at ease as an individual, help you read between the lines, help you keep calm in a very stressful situation and environment, helps you to build very strong connections and very real connections with people. Emotional intelligence practices will definitely make you a star in an organization. And I believe, and that is the reason why you should actually have EQ practices. Now, when we study emotional intelligence, we study it as a way where there are 5 main pillars in EQ practices. So we start off with self-awareness, understanding your emotions. And at the same time, not just understanding your emotions, but it's about understanding the thought behind why you're actually having that emotion. For example, let's say, many people come to me because I work as a mental health care professional saying that I have anger issues, but anger is actually a secondary emotion. There is always a reason why anger could be triggered in an individual. So therefore, EQ practices will give you the understanding of thoughts, that why you are actually experiencing this emotion. At the same time, it will help you to understand the emotional fluctuations of people. Emotional intelligence practices will teach you self-regulation. That means knowing when and where and how to demonstrate your emotions. Having emotions is absolutely all right. But the thing is, having intelligence on the fact that with whom to cry, where to cry, and even the particular environment to see of how to cry. And all these things are highly essential. Then we come into the element of motivation. In EQ practices, we speak about intrinsic motivation, intrinsically driven, internally driven, not just for mere external gratifying factors like fame, money, power, and position. And people will naturally be motivated to do things in life. Then we speak about empathy, which is also a blend of compassion and at the same time, a little bit of sympathy as well. Then finally, putting all these practices together in terms of building social skills, the right way of communication, the right way of building connections, and all these factors, even at the same time, building your presentation skills, building your PR skills, and all these factors. So it's a very holistic way of looking at individuals. And why EQ will make you a star is that, when you as a person, when you're in a position of understanding your emotions and at the same time validating the emotions of people around you and having empathy as a leader, I think in a world where we are losing humanity, more than empowering women or empowering something else, I think what we need is actually empowering humanity. And when it comes to working with human beings, emotions is not something we can actually forget and go towards. So that is why EQ practices are highly essential. And at the same time, EQ practices will not only make you a star in your organization, it will help you a lot in terms of building your personality in your personal life as well. Like I said, at the end of the day, you can't actually draw that fine line between your personal life and your professional life. So it's who you are as a person. And I'm sure that definitely EQ practices will definitely benefit you as a person, who you are, as a profession, as in whatever the profession you are, in your personal life and your professional life. So it'll give you that holistic, wonderful personality that you should be actually having in life. Dr. Rohantha, Kaushali, I hope that my time is over and I was able to convince why EQ practices are highly essential and why you should learn it.
Thank you very much, Rasini, and very interesting topic, which is very useful in everyday life, like you very rightly said. So there have been a whole heap of questions that are coming, and the first question that's coming in is said that what is the blend between emotional intelligence and work-life balance? How do you blend this?
Emotional intelligence and work-life balance. So work-life balance is a very common topic, always brings into a conversation when it comes to mental well-being also. So this work-life balance is actually very individualistic, I must say, Dr. Rohantha, because as individuals, we are gifted with very different personalities. So then my way of work-life balance is not something I can teach you, because of course, your level of work and your level of commitment is very different. So the thing is, when an individual has the element of the understanding of emotional intelligence, it actually gives you a lot of space to think about all the people that's important to you in your life, whom are highly essential when it comes to your work-life balance. So for example, let's say emotional intelligence will give you the strength and the courage and the understanding that there are certain things which you should address even in a workplace. Let's say, for example, you're going through some sort of a family crisis at home. Mainly what happens is that, in our, mostly in our communication, leaving aside the person you should be talking to the problem, we speak to everyone else about the problem. So sometimes we never take the situation or the concern to the leadership. So empathy practices will happen in both ways. Right? So then you will be able to actually take your concerns. You'll be very assertive in terms of communication, that how your leadership in the organization or your team leader or whoever, even your colleagues, work colleagues, can actually help you to tackle with certain difficult tasks that you have in hand. At the same time, emotional intelligence practices will help you to build better relationships, let's say with your family, with your children, your spouse, and everyone who matters to you. I mean, sometimes, I would say the workforce people bring these kind of problems. I have elderly parents who are under my care, and it's very tough. It's very demanding, living with them. At the same time, sometimes it could be children, right? And it could be certain life circumstances that you're dealing with. I think it helps you to be a better communicator, because communication is actually the key to a lot of things. It sometimes it'll give you the courage to ask for help, ask for support, and actually build up a better understanding, and even maintain a massive transparency with the situations that you are going on, even with children. And so it'll actually teach you to better handle your emotions. So that's a very crucial and a critical part when it comes to work-life balance as well.
Thank you, Rasini. Another question which is just feeding in is that what are the key practices that you recommend practically that we must follow as 1, 2, 3 to learn this skill of emotional intelligence?
Right. So I think first thing comes is your self-awareness. I think, if you ask the question from someone, think about a confidant, a very close person to your heart, in front of whom you can be anybody, and then say 2 words about this person. And I'm sure that anyone can give a solid answer to this. But then if you change the question and ask, now, if I go and ask this person to tell 2 things about you, what would he or she say? People always get stuck. It's because they have a very less understanding of who they are as an individual. So therefore, I would say, take a look inside, go inside, reflect on the things like what brings you happiness, what are the turn-offs for you, what are the turn-ons for you, right? At the same time, having the consciousness of, I would say, the thought behind the emotions that you're going through. Just like I said, that some people come and say that I have anger problems. It's always not anger issues. There could be something, some factor that's actually triggering this emotion in you. So it's about taking a walk inside. I mean, things like journaling, things like sitting down. I mean, even tools like emotion meters or even mood meters are things that you can actually use when it comes to understanding that component of self-awareness. So take a walk inside is, I think, I would say, number one when it comes to practicing EQ. And at the same time, try to find what drives you. Because honestly, there are a lot of people who do things for the sake of doing. And at the same time, who are doing a job for the sake of doing a job. And it's pretty much like when you speak to people, mostly would say that, I can't wait for, thank God it's Friday, and oh no, it's Monday. So then, you need to understand that, what drives you as a person also. I mean, doing something that you're really passionate in will give you the necessary petrol and the diesel to run your body every day. So waking up every day, you will not feel like taking a cow to a slaughter. So then I think finding that factor, that is what we speak about intrinsic motivation also. When you're internally driven, when you feel like you want to be better than who you were yesterday, that will be a fantastic way of learning and building your capacity. I mean, rather than merely doing things for external rewards as an individual. I'm not saying that money is not important. Of course, it's very important. But if that is the only reason why you're in this particular job, I'm sure that burnout is not very far away. Right? So that, I would say, number 2 will be finding your passion. So go inside, look at yourself, understand yourself more, spend a lot of time with yourself, reflecting. That's number 1. Then I would say find your passion. That would be number 2. And then at the same time, very humbly work on your communication skills with people. Try to always get feedback from people, even if you speak in a forum, even if you do a presentation, even if you raise certain concerns in a boardroom, ask for people for feedback. Was it all right how I said it? Did it show any passive aggressive way? Right? Do you think there's a different way of doing this? So it actually makes you a more humble person as well, to be very honest. So I would say those 3. So working on your communication, whether it's verbal or non-verbal. Then coming into point number 2, which is finding your purpose or what drives you as an individual. And then number 1 would be taking an overall journey inside your life.
Actually, a whole heap of questions are coming, so I'm going to just pick up. The question that has been asked is, how do you drive emotional intelligence among youngsters in one's home?
Right. So the thing is, this is a very surprising thing, Dr. Rohantha. Now, mostly I get to train corporates when it comes to emotional intelligence. So let's say we'll take the time or their age, maybe 35 or above. But the thing is, the age that someone starts building up the components of EQ, it's actually 13 months to 18 months. So the 13-month to 18-month-year-old baby, right, would have the component of empathy in them. And then by the time you're 2 years of age, you have self-regulation slowly building up. That means knowing when and where and how to deal with your emotions. So, but unfortunately, we make a mockery out of it. Number 1 is we don't validate emotions in our children, mostly, if you kind of look at it. if you take boys and girls, we bring gender into the concept of emotions, right? It's okay for girls to demonstrate emotions. It's absolutely not all right for boys. I mean, boys can, of course, demonstrate emotions, aggression, happiness. They are okay, given permission. But then, unfortunately, we don't do that for our boys. But the thing is, number one, when it comes to building emotional intelligence, is that accepting that emotions are okay and emotions are fine. So just because you have negative emotions will not make you a negative person, or having positive emotions all the time will also not make you a positive person. Having emotions will only establish one thing, that you are a human being. And that's number one. So that understanding should be given regardless of gender. And I always say that emotional intelligence is genderless. Even if you are a woman, that doesn't give you permission to cry wherever you want to cry. You have to know when to cry and in front of whom to cry. And that's the level of intelligence. So that is actually genderless. So these practices you can start from the very beginning. Validate the emotions of your little children, right? Give validation to the emotions of your teenagers. So it starts from very young days, right? Understand, be empathetic to listen to them. Don't listen to them to answer, listen to understand, right? So I think that's where you can start, and that's the best place to start.
There's a question on webinar chat. It says, how can I know if I'm having a high or low emotional intelligence?
Right. Okay. So I can give you a few tips. I think, for example, let's say if you are somebody who's not accountable, if you're somebody who plays the victim all the time, right? And you enjoy being the victim, that shows very less level of EQ, right? And let's say, for example, you're somebody who have temper tantrums and all those things, very regression level of displaying emotions, right? That actually shows the fact that, you have less EQ in you. But I must say that it's never a bad news, right? Because just because, I would say, even me being a mental health care professional and somebody who advocates emotional intelligence, sometimes my emotional intelligence flies right out of the window. It happens to us. At the end of the day, you have to accept it. You can't be emotionally intelligent all the time. It can always go for a 6. But the thing is, it's always about, I think, following that incident, maybe with an apology or something like that, or even reflecting on how you reacted and actually acknowledging that. So it's about working on it every day. So no one can say that I am absolutely emotionally intelligent, because as human beings, our emotions can always fluctuate. So then therefore, it's always about analyzing about it and actually acknowledging and understanding about it. So then I would say that, don't lose your heart thinking, oh, I think I'm very less emotionally intelligent. But then if you're finding it difficult to build connections with people, then that can be a sign that you have low EQ. Right? But still, it's again something that you can improve and build up. If, you're a leader who people do not actually like to associate, let's say, and that can be you have very low EQ. If your employees are not coming to you with their problems, or not really being opening up to you regarding the problems and situations in the workplace, that can also show the fact that, you have very low level of EQ. If a conversation always ends up in an argument, if you constantly argue, and at the same time, sometimes, you might meet people in life who would hold on to an argument and won't let go, like an octopus, right, until it's proven that they are right, that can actually show very low level of EQ. So you should have the intelligence to understand that sometimes it's not necessary to burn my fuel into this particular argument.
Thank you very much, Rasini. It was a fantastic discussion. We normally have people who are totally into business and leadership, but today what you shared is more to do with behavior, which sometimes we take for granted. But you also explained how it's so useful for those final successful tips on making sure that your impact is much more right, and it's much more in line with what organizations as well as society would want. So thank you very much. Ruth, over to you.
It was lovely having you on our platform. I know you are packed with lots of different work that you do. And it was lovely to have you on board and share your insights into emotional intelligence, something that is, I would say, very often than not overlooked, and nonetheless, but very important for each and every one of us, irrespective of our level, of our age, culture, position in corporate. So thank you again for the time spent. As we draw to a close, I would like to remind our industry partners that at APIT, we have an extensive internship program. And if you do have any opportunities, do send it our way. And if you are looking to upskill, our next intake is about to start, and do feel free to make a call, walk in, or even drop us an email for more details. Whether it's an undergraduate program or a postgraduate program. And we are offering an MS in marketing, MS in cybersecurity, and MSc in IT management as new offers this semester. And with this, I'd like to say thank you again to our IT team for the technical support extended, to all participants and audience members, our students, alumni, industry partners, and well-wishers. So till we meet again next time, Rasini, thank you so much. I'd like to wish everybody a good day, a good evening, and a good night from wherever you are joining in.